Please keep in mind that this is just YouTube's way of trying to make YouTube itself more money, not necessarily the creator. You're killing me, guys. So even though I said what I said in the last video, you're forcing me once again. I'm only kidding. You're forcing me once again to say thanks, and I definitely appreciate it. So here we go.
Now, how do we get to this point right here, and why? It's just part of that cleaning, and yeah, just part of cleaning. I wanted to get the diamond dust mud that's all stuck in this wheel out of here. There isn't anything really in this wheel. It's the back wheels that get all the garbage. But I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this. Clean out the wheel, block off these holes. So there's 2 holes on the inside of the wheel. Then I'll go ahead and take my little bullet thing here, put it in a drill, and strategically just drill out probably 2 holes on this. I'll probably drill them out on the 45s from those holes there. So you have that hole there or that hole there. I'll just do like 45s. So why am I doing 45s? Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm thinking like balance. And Amelia Hartford found her 69 Camaro. Anyways, yeah, I watched that stuff, man. But anyways, I'm going to pop off this right here just to see how the front's doing. See if we've got any wear, see if we've got any bearing issues, get a look at this axle right here. And yeah, if you want to see this episode from RC Guy Garage, you already know what to do. Let's just get into it. I'll show you what my process is on how to go ahead and do this with this little bullet thing here. I should just call this the tire bullet. It's going to be on the shop. I'm going to actually make a bunch of these and put them on the shop. They're going to look exactly like this. They're going to look like a piece of garbage. They're going to look literally like a bullet that's been expended. So, and it does have a hole in the other end. But it's going to be looking like an expended shell. So you just go ahead and place this in your drill. I prefer to keep it extended out a little bit. Reason why that is, right? Doesn't need to be super tight, but the reason why that is you want to be able to take a driver and poke the little rubber cutouts into the chuck. Because when into the chuck, or at least when you push these through, it just leaves space. Now, I'd only recommend doing one at a time, because if you don't, what's going to happen is it might not drill it out just right. So do one, take this, kind of plunger it in, and then do another one. So you can see we've got the hole right there. We've got a hole right there. So we've got holes on opposite sides. So what I want to do is go ahead and put a hole right there. That's how easy it is, dude. Look at how perfect that hole is. And then you can even see the little rubber pieces right there. So if I poke that in, it might even fall out of the chuck. Nah, it won't. It'll fall out after the fact. So we've got our hole right there, which is perfect. I'm going to go literally on the exact opposite side. I'm going to put a hole in the tread right there. That's it. Look at that hole. Absolutely perfect. You can actually see the rubber piece in there. So once I do this, look at that. There's your little rubber piece. The other one is still stuck in here. So like I was saying, what you do is you pop it out. And there it is. Cuts a tiny little hole in your tire so it can evacuate the sand, and you can go ahead and clean this and plug these up. So yeah, back onto the real reason why we're here with this thing. So I just want to see how we're looking as far as play. See how this thing is. So you get the it's almost like a kingpin style. So you've got your upper ball joint. I'm gonna go ahead and take the screw out of here. You get your steering link, and there's a nut on the bottom of that, so do need to get some kind of like pliers on that lock nut. Pop that out. Then on the underneath is another one right here. So go ahead and pop that out. Now, these two are the exact same size. So now you should be able to pull this off as a unit with the shaft connected. So I'm just checking for play. There is some wear on these pins. It's not too bad. Shaft itself, nice and straight, but I wanted to check the bearings. I wanted to see how the bearings looked. I'm using the linear view right now. This is different. I'm using the GoPro 10. I'm really trying to put the GoPro 10 through some paces because it's kind of annoyed me. It overheats way too fast. It is on 4K, but I've got my other camera on 4K too, the Hero 7 Black, and I don't seem to have issues with that. So there definitely is thread lock on these pins, as I said before, on the rear. So I'll go ahead and pull this off. We're going to swivel this disc out of the way. You don't need to take the caliper off to do this. There is that spacer that's right here. So there are some parts that I'm just going to kind of clean up a little bit. Now we can go ahead and slide the axle out. And the axle did have just the slightest amount of like a film of grease on it, which is a good sign. So debris and stuff getting in here and constantly grinding on these joints is what can cause some issue. What I did want to check, yeah, you can see all the dirt and stuff that's impacted inside of that pocket right there, which is fine. Bearings are doing what they're supposed to do, but I just want to check and see if the bearings are actually all right. So I'm going to go ahead and dislodge these bearings. So you've got an outer bearing and you've got an inner bearing. I'm just going to go ahead and take my driver and I'm just going to lightly push on the bearing from the back side. Get a look at it here. It feels absolutely perfect. I don't feel any rocks or debris or grit in there. And it feels very, very good. So the bearing itself, I mean, it's only a couple battery packs, so it should feel good, but you know, the rear gets pummeled. The front, not so much. So we do have the other bearing that's right there. Go ahead and use, oh, I was thinking I could use that. So I will use the same driver and just give it a couple little nudges out. And it doesn't really want to nudge out, so I'll take this driver, place it in the center, and just give it a couple of wraps on the top. So just give it a couple taps. Yeah, that's all it took. Literally, it's already out. So I'm going to take something and clean inside of here. So this is interesting. So this has like a keyed little thing. So instead of having a complete plastic surround, it has like these notches. I don't know how I feel about that. The only reason why I say that is because it seems like it takes a little bit of strength away, but maybe that's not an issue with this thing. The plastic itself is pretty thin here, but maybe that really isn't an issue. So I'm just gonna kind of twist this up and place it inside, and I'm just gonna kind of clean it out like that. Okay, very, very easy to clean. There's still a little bit more grit stuck in there, but it's really not that big of a deal. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe there isn't going to be a problem with this hub. It does look like it's pretty good. Looks like both of the bearings are the same style or same size. So it's not like we have a larger inner bearing and a smaller outer bearing like sometimes we have. It is just a smaller bearing. So let's just say you wanted to go ahead and just get the bearing, or you wanted the size of the bearing. I'll give you those numbers right now. So if you wanted to go and buy just a brand new bearing, you would need, it would be a 12 by a width of 4 by an inner diameter of, so I guess that would kind of like almost be like a 6. Let's see if it's zeroed out. Yeah. So that would be what? Almost like a 6? Probably what it would be. 5.91. Look at that. Look at the discrepancy there. So like I was saying, is I normally put grease in there. It's weird. I actually don't want to on this one. Because of the way this is designed, I don't want to go ahead and put grease in there. That's kind of odd to me. So I'll go ahead and stab this back through. Maybe I could put like a little drop in there. Sorry, it's just me. I feel like I have to. Okay, so one little drop is in there. So again, clean off these threads. Put the shim on. Clean up the shim. So we're good there. Put that shim on there. And take the disc. You want to have that side pointed in, the hex side facing out. Go ahead and put that in there. Gives it space. Hex, again, does have a larger opening on one side, smaller opening on the other side, so you can't put this on wrong. So, but what you do want to do is you want to line up the hole. So we're going to put that into place. I'm going to take that and rotate it, the axle, until we see the hole right there. See how you can, I think you can see through there. So now that's rotated. Go ahead and take this. You could put thread lock, but I'm not going to. I haven't found that you need thread lock with this stuff, because in a sense, once you put this in, it's not going to go anywhere. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like there's no pin or anything it's going to fall out. Let's take a look at this hex, because I was kind of curious. It does have nice square edges, which is a good thing. The only thing I need to do is just clean the sand out of here. And I already did do the holes, so we got one hole right there. See that? Got a hole right there. And on the exact opposite side, same thing, another hole right there. So that works out perfect. Alright, we're going to see how this kind of continuation works. I do have this on just because, and I've got the volume on. Obviously, this was all put back together, so, and I wanted to just put it back into the slot. And something that had kind of happened was dinner. Ended up, you know, kind of hanging out with my wife and making sure everything was cool with her. But my elbow was on here, and you look at those two screws and they look like they're the same, but they're not. So one has got a flange on them and one doesn't. The flanged one, or should I say this one, the flanged one, is a new one, because this got stuck to my elbow and then fell into my trash. I had already emptied my trash. I tried looking for the screw. I didn't use the Cow RC mat. Now, if I had used the mat, I was just thinking like it was going to get destroyed from all the sand and whatever from, you know, the RC car, like grinding sand into the white part of the mat, which does destroy it. Because I should have used one of those things that Cow RC thing came with, which is one of these. I should have used this or the other one. So this has those little puck things. This is what I should have done the whole time. Because if I had done this, all these screws would stay in all the little individual pockets, and I would have been fine. I mean, things can still get stuck to your elbow if you jam your elbow or your arm or whatever into it, but it's the problem I have, man. So this is the other wheel. And did I drill it? Yeah, so I did drill it. I still have to do the getting rid of the sand and then block off those holes, kind of clean it up. I will also check to like kind of like I'm checking right now, just to make sure that the tire is staying on here. Somebody had mentioned something that they wanted to, you know, put this on 4S, and I mean, you know, you got to do what you got to do. I wouldn't recommend it, man. 3S seems to be the top for this thing. I don't see why you would need to run 4S with this thing. Battery tray is going to be a huge limitation, and you're going to be overdriving the vehicle. So I wouldn't recommend 4S, but you know, you do what you got to do to make yourself happy. I don't think your wallet's going to be happy pumping 4S into this thing. It's not designed for 4S. If you want something that's, you know, 4S or whatever, just get the Traxxas UDR. That you can run, what is it? UDR is 4 to 6S. So, anyways, so this was all set. Just going to go ahead and reinstall this, making sure that obviously the spindle, I've got this the correct way. So obviously the link arm connects onto that side right there. When you install this, you want to make sure you grab the pin that has the threads only at the top. It's like kind of like that king pin style, and it just threads into the top here and slides down through. So we'll throw that in there. Guiding that thing in there. Watch how I struggle here. Oh, dude, I'm totally struggling. The camera is totally in my face. You should see how I'm like trying to guide my face over the camera. Grab a couple threads. Grab the lower arm. And this is where I would need to flip the vehicle over. Oh, look at that. Much better. Alright, so... Hey, look at that. Lee is out of here. Out of here. She literally said out of here. She used my terminology. So obviously we had Lee coming up and trying to do something over here, but it was just a joke. So another Walmart overreaction. Electric driver here somewhere. I took it apart.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Oh, that's cool.
Can you say that again?
No.
I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. Good for you. Right.
Woohoo!
Yeah. What the hell? You heard that, right? She literally just said woohoo. Alright, so same thing here. So same thing here on this little knuckle thing. Just kind of slide that into place. Lining up the ball. And then we'll stuff this in place here. And that will take... Oh, dude, you know... On the ground, dude. And then I will grab it with the needle nose and give it a little bit of a tweak up the top. Just like that. Flip it back over just so I can go ahead and tighten this. Perfect. I'm starting to think, is that the wrong one? That really kind of almost looks like it's the wrong one. Because that's really not... That's just to the very edge. So, I don't think it's this one, is it? Oh, actually it might be. See, slight difference in length of screw, but it's just enough to grab the nylock on this one. Alright, so now we're good. That's all together. The other thing that I did do was I popped off this piece, and the funny thing is, right, I'm just being honest here. When I popped off that piece, I had flipped the truck upside down, And wouldn't you know, what piece did I pop off? I took that one off. So I had to put that one back on and put this one back on. But anyways, I took this off so I could go ahead and get to the nut that's right there. The servo itself on this thing seems like it's, or at least I feel like the servo's maybe coming across an issue. I'm not positive yet. There's an issue when the vehicle's static, when it's not moving. No power to it. When you try to, you know how normally you can turn the wheels and the servo will go? It might be the strength of the servo preventing me from doing that, which kind of seems like it causes an issue with the servo saver, which is right there. So what I did is I got probably about a half a turn, maybe 3/4 of a turn, getting a 7mm wrench, I believe, in there. I think I use these ignition wrenches on stuff like that because the ignition wrenches, these are usually a true size. I've got a bunch of them right here. I've always had these, so I've got standard and metric, but I've got the 7 through, or is it 6? Yeah, I got 7 through 11 right here that I use like working on this stuff just because it's a real tool. It's not a stamped piece of flat metal, which is usually garbage. It's actual tool, so. But again, so like half to 3/4 of a turn on that servo saver, hopefully to tighten that up. I didn't want to do it too much, but I do want to take some of the slop out of here. I do understand, and I do know that obviously, you know, there are companies that have made parts for this. I think we've got Hot Racing, the Vitavon, and maybe GPM. I'm not sure if GPM has made parts for this thing, but Hot Racing I know has, and obviously Vitavon. The thing is though, man, I need somebody to tell me a little bit about this Vitavon. So initially I had thought Vitavon was like this guy that had his own, I don't look into stuff, man. That's how green I am in this industry. Vitavon, I had assumed in my head, was like an M2C, just like a regular guy, just creating parts. I'm thinking that's not the case now. I'm not positive. I think Vitavon's coming from China. So does that mean it's like, is it just a regular guy from China? Or is Vitavon like a GPM or an Integi Energy, whatever the name of that company is, or Hot Racing? Is it like literally a manufacturing plant, or is it this guy working out of his house? I would, in a sense, prefer to try to support the people that are trying to make it outside of their house. Or, how did I say that? This is the guy that's working inside his house. You get what I'm saying. Small business. I like to support small business. There's another individual that does that, Earl Moorhead. He also supports small business. He tries to go through small business first because he wants to support growth. Growth that is kind of important in this, especially like in this hobby, man. But that also goes through automotive. There's a whole story behind that. So noticing that there's like a screw right there. What's that screw for? See that screw right there? What is that? See that screw? What the heck is that? What is that for? Why is it just like a random screw? There. What do you fill it with water? I don't know what the heck that screw could be for. It does have the little pressure relief thing here, so you can bleed the shocks. So it's got the little shock bleeders up at the top, which is kind of cool. It's definitely just a different way of doing it. I had.
I'm not sure what went wrong.
Alexa, I'm not talking to you. I don't know why.
Sorry. I thought I heard my name.
No, you didn't. All right, whatever. Getting into a fight with Alexa this morning. I had noticed that there was also a screw right here, a set screw, and that, I'm assuming, is holding in the slide pin that's in here for the upper arms. The lower arms are probably held in by that front bumper. I can't remember. Or that front skid plate, whatever. But yeah, it was certain things. Obviously, if you take this cage off, if you take that cage off, it's definitely makes it easier in a sense to do an overall clean, because that way you can get to everything. And that's when I discovered that my my thing here, my receiver, the receiver itself was actually dislodged. It was floating around inside the truck. I probably would have never noticed that because sometimes when you know, shake a vehicle, whatever, you can hear stuff and you would think like maybe it was like slapping of wires or whatever, but because of the way this truck is, you really can't see the inside. So taking this cage off was a good thing because it did allow me to find the fact that my receiver was flopping around. I also did take the antenna wire and I lengthened it all the way to the tip of the antenna. I felt that that was a good move. I feel like I also still want to cap it just to kind of finish the look, but that's just kind of like a superficial thing. So I'm just going to now wrap this truck up. I will end up checking this side. I'll check that side off camera. I already did this side. I already did this side right here. We don't need dueling sides. I am going to finish up the relief holes in this wheel. Actually, I'm not going to finish up the relief holes because they're already done. There's one right there, and then there's one right there. I did it opposite of the holes in the rim because I was thinking, foolishly, I was thinking balance. You know what I'm saying, right? So there's holes in the plastic. Obviously these tires and wheels aren't like balanced from the factory or anything, but I figured if I was taking extra material out, why would I want to take it out where the holes are existing on the rim? Just take it out on the 45s-ish of the tire itself. So it doesn't equate to the same weight. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. It doesn't equate to the same weight. Whatever, dude. It's just early in the morning. I'm having some fun. So just gonna go ahead and scrape out the rest of this dirt. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using a little bit of this Moo Clean stuff here to spray a little bit on the rag here, and I'm using it to clean the surface where I'm going to stick the things there. So let's kind of clean that up. I cut these like little squares. You'll see in a second what I do. I found this works pretty good for me. Here's the pile of sand that this was in just that one wheel. So that pile of sand is what was in this. So here's a memory card. Not a sponsored memory card thing, but look at the size of that pile of dirt, dude. That was just a small amount of dirt. That was just a small amount of dirt that was inside the little Traxxas wheel, and that is definitely way more than enough to go ahead and throw this thing out of balance. So what I normally do is I take this HVAC tape or aluminum foil tape. Some people call it aluminum foil tape. Take a pair of scissors, and I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this section off. It's kind of ratty looking, but that's the section I'm gonna use. You just need small little sections like this. That's all you need. Small little squares or rectangles. And sometimes with this tape, you need a razor blade to kind of slice off that back section. Then I'll take the driver and I'll stick it to a portion of the driver, pull off the tape, and that gives it a way to go ahead and place it into place. So with the camera being in the way, I'll place it into place like that, and then just smooth it out just like that. You can see the holes directly in the middle. So now I'll do the same thing for this side. Those holes are already prepped. Take the razor blade, get to that back piece like that, stick it on the end of this like that, pull the backing off, slide it into place like that, and then just go like that, smooth it out. And that's how I block off my holes. So this stuff seems to work fine. Might not be an ultra permanent solution, especially if you've got the front wheels firing debris at the rear wheels. But I was using this stuff just to kind of clean off the surface. It seems to work pretty good. So then I know this is all set. Now I can go ahead and just install it in the truck, and I will clean up my mess, and I'll go ahead and hang on to, oh, look at that. I'll go ahead and hang on to this piece because I've got to do the other side. It's just working on this Eisenhower truck. Like I said, this thing is an absolute pig. I will do a video on this thing about how to take the cage off and what I have found. Somebody had mentioned that anytime you work on the truck or whatever, it's just a lot easier to take off the cage. No, it's not. I'm sorry. I hate to disagree with you. Maybe you've got a different way of taking off your cage, but if you're just working on the front differential, you don't need to do that. If you're working on the rear differential or anything like that, you don't need to do that. I think the only time that you need to take that cage off is if you're going to do like this kind of stuff. There's a lot of screws that it takes to really take this cage off, and it took me a little bit of time. Now obviously as time goes on, I'll show you what I'm talking about. 2 screws up here, you got 1 screw here, 1 screw there. This is all the stuff like you got to keep in mind where all these screws go. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because it's on the other side. So we're at 6 screws right now, 6. Then you've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and I think that's it. So 14 screws you've got to take off to get this cage off. It's not a lot, but you still got to remember where all the screws go because they're all kinds of like different lengths. Like even on here, 1 screw I think is like a smaller head screw than the other screw, and then you've got an ultra long screw, and you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, look at it, I got screws everywhere. So now I've got to remember where to put these screws. So anyways, like I was saying, man, this is just RC Guy Garage working on the Eisenhower truck. Is this truck worth it? It all depends. It all depends upon the type of driving or the type of stuff you like to do. I am that kind of full trigger kind of just want to chuck a pack in and rip a truck. I am that kind of guy, but I guess when it comes to maintenance, this truck is a maintenance truck, but rightfully so. Rightfully so because it's got a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of design that went into this truck. Is it perfect? No. But as an RTR, it really does a great job of handling multitudes of terrain. People are asking, you know, would this like either replace a UDR or does this compare to a UDR? Yeah, it actually does. To an extent. You're paying, by the time you've got batteries in it, I think you're paying like $900, $1,000 with tax for a Traxxas UDR. Traxxas UDR, I want to say there's probably no comparison to that truck. Some people will say, you know, well, what about the SBR 2.0, the Super Baja Rey? It's weird, man. There's like, it's a size difference. I really like the UDR, and I would say I probably like the UDR better than the SBR just because the SBR is just that much bigger. Huge limitations with all 3 of these trucks is that thing right there. But you have to think there's a reason why. There's a reason why these manufacturers, sometimes, you know, they're designing it because that's all they've got. They've just got this amount of space to work with, but it goes beyond that. It's why, you know, like if you get a 1500, you know, or a F-150 or a 1500. If you get a Ford, Dodge, or Chevy truck, there's a reason why they say what the weight capacity is that the truck can hold, because that's what it's designed for. When you overload it, you're overloading it. You're potentially exceeding the capacity or you're exceeding the capability of those vehicles, and it goes the same. It goes the same with these RC vehicles. Once you start adding speed, adding battery weight, and along with speed comes more power. If you cannot upgrade everything else behind that power, then that's when you're going to have the issue. Anytime you add more weight, you're adding more weight to this stuff, okay? The springs, you're adding it to the suspension. You're adding it to the way the truck handles. You're adding weight to the balance of the vehicle. If you've only got a one-side battery type of deal, you're adding more weight on one side. On this particular truck, that might not be a bad thing, though, because this thing definitely likes to lift that front wheel. And maybe if you had a little extra battery weight in that side, maybe it wouldn't lift the wheel as much, but inherently that's the design, or that's the way these trucks drive. And I do appreciate that kind of scale realism. The Traxxas UDR somehow has been able to get rid of that front wheel lift. Yeah, this one's got it. So believe it or not, because it has that, I kind of almost appreciate it. Because what it does is it causes you to counter steer, just like you would in a real one, causes you to go through all the pains and distress of driving. And that really sometimes is important. If you want a vehicle that just chuck a pack and drive it, you know, some people were saying, you know, Slash is way better than this, but that's for you, guy. There's things about a Slash that are garbage. You know what I'm saying? So there's things about all vehicles. Somebody else made a comment about, I guess their Kraton V6 or something. They bought a Kraton and they having issues with it. And it's just like, it does happen, man. Sometimes you get a lemon. So enough of this talk, man. What are you doing? Ah!